The pledge today will be led by Joseph Cochet, Nicole Manera, Alex Panagua, and Sari Ruiz from Rifle High School, Rifle, Colorado.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kohler, please call the roll.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Arndt. Becker J. Becker K. Brown. Buck. Buckner. Carver. Conti. Representative Conti. She is quorum. Court. Danielson. Del Grosso. Grosso excused. Dorr. Representative Dorr. Dorr.
Excused.
Dorr excused. Duran. Esgar. Everett is excused. Fields. Foote. Garnett. Janal. Hamner. Humphrey. Joshi. Kagan. Klingenschmidt. Kraft-Tharp. Landgraf. Lawrence. Lebsock. Lee. Leonard. Lontine. Lundeen. McCann. Melton. Mitch Bush. Moreno. Navarro. Neville. Nordberg. Pabon. Pedersen. Primavera. Priola. Rankin. Ransom. Rosenthal. Rupe. Ryden. Sane. Salazar. Sias. Singer. Thurlow. Tyler. Van Winkle. Vigil. Willett. Williams. Wilson. Windholes. Winter. Wist. Young. Madam Speaker.
Here. With 62 present, 3 excused, a quorum is present. Representative Lontine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the reading of the Journal of Friday, March 4th, 2016 be dispensed with and that it be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You have heard the motion that the journal be adopted as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are into announcements and introductions. Representative McCann. And would you give me 2 minutes, Representative McCann?
Yes.
May I have your attention, members? Please take your side conversations outside and place your attention to the well for announcements and introductions. Please proceed, Representative McCann.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to remind people today that today is Colorado Nurses Day here at the Capitol, and thank you. We have some nurses here in the chamber, I believe. If they would like to stand up and be recognized, that would be great. And we want to thank them for all the great work that they do for our communities. Thank you.
That's a $2 fine, Representative McCann. Representative Esgar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And in honor of National Nurses Day here at the Capitol, I have one particular nurse watching from home that I want to say hello to my wife, a cardiac nurse, and appreciate all the work you do.
That's $2, Representative Escar. Welcome, nurses. Is she related to you? Oh, I am sorry, I didn't hear that. Welcome. There's no $2 fine associated with that. Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to announce a change in our Public Health Care and Human Services Committee tomorrow. We will be hearing Representative Vihill's Senate Bill 94 first, and that will be followed by Representative Landgraf's House Bill 1112, and then Representative Rosenthal's 1210 and Lundin 1224 at the end. So there is a change between Rosenthal and Landgraf's bills, so just make note of that. Thank you.
Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to announce again today at noon in room 109 in the basement. If you like innovation in Colorado, you're going to love this information session on a virtual air traffic control tower at the Fort Collins Loveland Airport. It's really cool, and I think it might change the way we do aviation, especially for small airports in Colorado.
Representative Navarro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, just a reminder that we have the Behavioral Health Caucus on Wednesday at noon in room 356. Thank you.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Love nurses. My mama was a nurse for 40 years before she retired. But my pops is up here. My dad, Mike Salazar, he's here. He's visiting us today. He's up in the gallery because he doesn't want to sit in the little chair here in the corner down on the House floor. But let's welcome my pops.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee will be meeting today at 1:30. We will be in room 271. Room 271. We have 5 bills up. We will be using our time clock, and it will be set at 2 minutes. If you want to let friends and folks know who may be coming to testify that we will have a 2-minute limit on our testimony today. So we'll see you at 1:30. Thank you.
The further announcements. Representative McCann and then Priola.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of Health Insurance and Environment, we're changing our schedule a little bit for Thursday the 10th. We will be hearing Representative Salazar's bill, which is House Bill 1310, which is currently set for the 24th of March. We'll be hearing that this Thursday the 10th. And we will not be hearing Representative Neville's bill, which is 1203. We're moving that to April the 7th. So keep that in mind. And we also will be, I believe we're in room 271 on Thursday, but I'll let you know. Thanks.
Representative Priola, do you have good news for us or anything like that?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Members,
May we have your attention, members? Your attention to the well, please.
Members, if I could draw your attention to the screen, I have a new announcement. That's the photo I snapped this morning of her sleeping. So her name is Cora Gabrielle Priola. She was born Friday evening at 10:25. She weighed 8 pounds, 7 ounces, 20.5 inches long, and her and Mama are doing great. They've just ate, slept, and you know what, all weekend. So we're very delighted. Thank you.
Congratulations, Representative Priola. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And first of all, I would like to invite everyone to the Bible study tomorrow morning at 7:15. We'd love to have you. I don't think you have a notice on your desk, but I think it's still on.
Representative Brown. And members, may we have your attention, please?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Please proceed, Representative Brown.
It is with great sadness that I was informed and have been informed of the passing of former state senator of the 6th District, Jim Isger. He was not only one of the great politicians of our time, but he was also a successful rancher, businessman, and friend. Standing on his deep roots in La Plata County, former state Senator Jim Isger may have made his largest mark on the state's agricultural community. 2 months shy of his 65th birthday, he died in Denver on Friday after a 4-year battle against a rare form of leukemia. Isger had a background in water before he was appointed to the Senate in 2001 to finish the term of former Senator Jim Dyer, who resigned to take a position with the Colorado Public Utilities Commission. As a farmer and rancher in the Breen area, Isger served on numerous water boards, including La Plata and Animas La Plata Conservancy Districts, the H.H. Ditch Company, including 25 years as president, and the Southwest Water Conservation District. Jim was a true Coloradoan and a strong supporter of agriculture and water issues in the state, said Bruce Whitehead, Executive Director of the Southwest Water Conservation District. Senator Isger was well known for his influence over the state water law and policy, and many bills had to be Isgerized prior to passing out of committee. And I know that was the truth. Jim fought in the state legislature for common sense use of available water. Jim was a champion of water use. He was a champion of education. And although Jim was a devout Democrat, in his eyes there were no Democrat or Republican issues when it came down to agriculture, natural resources, property rights, and especially water rights. I was told by one of the lobbyists in Denver here, some time back, when he was in the legislature, that he could go to the microphone in a committee or on the Senate floor and change the entire debate with one sentence. He made one mistake. He endorsed me for county commissioner primarily because of property rights and their erosion. Jim was a good friend of mine. We didn't all agree all of the time, but we're going to miss him. And I would ask for a moment of silence.
A moment of silence is granted.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, members. Are there further announcements and introductions? Representative Mitch Bush.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative Brown. I knew Senator Isger not anywhere near as well as you did. He was, in fact, a towering figure in water statewide, in Western Slope water, and in working across the aisle, in making sure that everyone understood those water issues, those ag issues. and trying to build consensus with others. He will be greatly, greatly missed. He was physically a towering figure, a very tall man with a great cowboy hat, but moreover, he was morally and policy-wise a towering figure. We will miss him.
Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also was saddened Friday when I got the call that Jim had passed. Jim was a very good friend. He was my senator. And, you know, I don't think Jim often made mistakes. And when he endorsed Representative Brown for County Commissioner, that was not a mistake. It was well thought out because Jim didn't operate on emotions. He operated on his convictions and fact. And Jim was a friend of mine. We participated in several parades together, and he was a true gentleman, and we will certainly miss Jim and wish his family the best.
Representative Esgar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't normally talk about people I've never met, but for the last year and a half of being in this building and having very similar last names, I have been approached by so many people asking if I was related to the great Senator Isgar. And the stories that I've heard about this man blew me away. And I had reached out to him a few times, and now I understand why I hadn't really heard back. But I will tell you that my grandfather is a staunch, he has a staunch passion for genealogy. And when I told him about this, he's beginning to research to see if somebody down the line just changed one letter in our last names, and I will let you all know if we're related eventually. But I was very saddened to hear about this, and I can't tell you the number of wonderful things people that have been in this building a lot longer than me have had to say about this man, and I just want to wish those of you who did know him my condolences.
Are there further announcements and introductions? Seeing none, the next order of business is General Order, second reading of bills. Representative Garnett.
Madam Speaker, I move the House now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objections, Representative Garnett will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With the unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there's a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the Majority Leader. The coat rule is relaxed. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of House Bill 1275 by Representatives Foote and Pedersen.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, the committee will proceed out of order for consideration of House Bill 1275. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1275.
House Bill 1275 by Representatives Foote and Pedersen, also Senators Jones and Donovan, concerning the taxation of a corporation state income tax that is sheltered in foreign jurisdiction for purposes of tax avoidance.
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1275 and the Finance Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report includes an amendment that was made in Finance. The amendment was made in Finance in order to better clarify the legitimate business purpose off-ramp that we have put into the bill. It was an amendment offered by Mr. Chair. It was a good amendment. It passed without objection of the Finance Committee, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The Finance Committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ron, if we could put it up there. Yeah. And Ron, if we could get a visual up on the screen, that would be very good. Thank you. Members, thank you for your attention to this bill. This is a very good bill, House Bill 1275. And what you're taking a look in front of you is a map. And the arrow points towards a small island country called Bermuda. Now, members, I've heard Bermuda is a nice place, has nice beaches. Its economy is made up mostly of tourism, of course, because it's such a nice place. It has about 66,000 people that live there year-round. Bermuda also has a gross domestic product of about $6 billion. And that's, just to put it into context, members, that's about the same as Cheyenne, Wyoming, about $6 billion for their entire country's gross domestic product. But here's something that's absolutely amazing about Bermuda. Even though its gross domestic product is $6 billion, the size of Cheyenne, Wyoming, if you were to add up all of the profits, not sales, but profits, supposedly from sales made to Bermudans by publicly traded Fortune 500 companies alone, that figure would equal $94 billion. So let me just say that again. If you were to add up all of the profits of just publicly traded Fortune 500 companies supposedly attributed to sales in Bermuda, it would be a 1,600% increase over what their entire gross domestic product is. And that is absolutely amazing, members. You may be asking, how can that be? Well, I'll tell you, and that's what this bill is all about. That's because in Bermuda, and to be fair, there are many other countries that do the same thing. They have a very favorable tax environment, so it encourages some companies, not all, actually it's a very small number, some companies to attribute their profits made to the United States sales as well as Colorado sales to bank accounts that are controlled by shell corporations in Bermuda and other countries. They do this so they can avoid paying income tax, including Colorado income tax. Members, there, as best we can tell from data from other states, there are about 200 to 300 corporations doing business in the state of Colorado that do this. There are over 500,000 companies in the state of Colorado doing business, over 500,000 that do not. And this bill levels the playing field between those 500,000 companies that pay their state income taxes and those couple of hundred that don't. Those are the couple of hundred companies that have the lawyers, they have the accountants, and they have the resources to set up these tax haven accounts. And they are the couple of hundred companies that are at a competitive advantage over our small Main Street businesses here in the state of Colorado. This bill, House Bill 1275, simply says taxes should be paid where profits are made. Just like any subsidiary corporation in the rest of the United States, taxes should be paid where profits are made. So if there's a sale made to Coloradans and there's a profit on that sale, there's income tax assessed, just like there is to the other 500,000 businesses that do business in the state of Colorado. This is a bill that will level a playing field for our small businesses, members, and we ask for an aye vote.
Representative Rupe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members, for the sponsor, Representative Foote. Members, we have to be really seriously considering this bill. We did not have the Office of Economic Development come and testify on this bill. And frankly, my opposition to this bill is rooted in the stakeholder process. We had almost statewide a variety of different chambers of commerce who opposed this bill because they were not included in the stakeholders. And in my district, this is an imperative. You do a proper stakeholder process if you want to do a good bill. Members, I ask you not to support, to vote against this bill, and send it back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Representative Foote for the work that he's done over the summer and up to this point. He has had a very lengthy stakeholder process We have continued to ask for feedback, including when people were testifying, on how we can make this bill better. I don't think anyone who was there that day is going to say we support tax havens and we support Colorado companies not paying state taxes. So we are continually working on this bill, look forward to more feedback. But the reason why we brought this bill is not to point fingers and discourage businesses from coming in Colorado. We brought this bill to level the playing fields for other Colorado businesses. Small businesses in Colorado are paying state taxes. This is actually just a small percentage of multinational corporations who are using a tax loophole that currently exists to their advantage. So it's up to us. Do we want to change the laws to ensure that sales here in Colorado and business here is actually going towards our general fund, where we can invest back in our education system? We're also bringing this bill because if you do business in Colorado, we believe that you should play by Colorado rules, and to ensure that we have a sustainable economy. We know what our budget is going to look like this year and in the upcoming years if we don't start making changes to work together to ensure that we're making the necessary investments in our kids. In fact, we have a D+ rating in our school finance according to the 2016 Education Week Quality Counts Report, a D+ relative to the rest of the nation. While this bill is not going to completely solve our problems of adequately funding our schools, it can bring up to $75 million additional dollars to go directly to the state ed fund. And yes, Representative Wilson, this will increase above what we would normally put into it, and we confirmed with Julie Pellegrin as well. And we appreciate your support to work on that. But what this bill does, just to summarize, if a corporation is incorporated in another jurisdiction just for the purpose of tax avoidance, and it is not a legitimate business, then they're going to have to pay their percentage of business in Colorado. That's all this bill does. If over 80% of their payroll taxes and their property tax is outside of the United States, then they will not have to, this bill does not actually include those companies. So let's work together to ensure that companies that do business in Colorado, use our roads, and hire our workers are paying their fair share of state taxes just like other Colorado businesses.
Representative Rupe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I go back to the stakeholder process. If it was such a great deal, why is the Aurora Chamber of Commerce opposed? Montrose Chamber, the Colorado Competitive Council, the Colorado Springs Regional Business Alliance, the Douglas County Business Alliance, Fruita Era Chamber of Commerce. Members, we also looked at different states and which states have done this. Only 2 states, Montana and Oregon, have adopted the same approach, nor has tax haven legislation been adopted by Congress. Notably, California rejected the adoption of tax haven legislation. In 2014, Connecticut and Rhode Island adopted completely different tax policy approaches and adopted tax treaty protections to avoid misalignment with the principles of U.S. bilateral tax treaties. Members, this is a very serious consideration that we're having here, and the stakeholder process was not completely done if we have those many chambers of commerce who are in opposition to this. It's not a few companies. Further, I would say there is no silver bullet out there to solve any of our issues when it surrounds education or any other aspects, Medicare policy. So I ask for a no vote again.
Representative Priola.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Members, we heard this bill late night, I think it was a Wednesday night some weeks ago. I stand in opposition. I'm going to read a particular good point from this report. It's the STRI report about state tax haven legislation, to tell you some of our perspective. The challenge of taxing corporate income in an increasingly global and intangible-based economy. The rise of territorial tax system and retreat from worldwide taxation reflects an awareness of the underlying complexities of taxing income on an increasingly global and intangible based economy. Indeed, even if the OECD BEPS actions succeed in reducing profit shifting opportunities, the taxation of multinational corporation income on a global basis will continue to pose significant challenges for national governments. What does that mean? That means we live in a global economy where the accounting that this bill is pretending to be able to enforce is not as straightforward as the sponsors would try to indicate. I understand how previous legislatures have overspent down here and made commitments that now this legislature is trying so desperately to figure out ways to increase on paper, in the budget, other areas to spend, but this is not the right prescription. One of the people who testified in favor of the bill actually had an article where he pointed out at least two companies specifically, and I'm not going to name their names, I'm not going to shame them here in the well, but at least two companies specifically that Governor Hickenlooper touts and spent months and weeks recruiting to come to this state were listed as folks that will be required to prove their innocence under this bill. And keep in mind that employers in this state already pay a higher disproportional rate of property tax. They pay payroll tax for employees. Businesses have to recover all costs. And I submit to you that if this bill is enforced, and in other states like Montana and Oregon, they still have not completely implemented it since it's so difficult to implement. There are so many moving parts. I had an issue with the fiscal note. I don't believe the fiscal note says it only costs them $103,000 to implement with the kind of accounting that this bill looks to have to enforce. Those same companies that the governor of the state of Colorado has worked to recruit to this state to be job creators, I submit will leave this state, some, maybe all, will leave this state. Because if they move to Kansas or Wyoming just across the border, they will still pay property tax. They will still pay payroll tax. They will still pay all the other income tax in the state. But they won't feel like they have to get a pass from the Department of Revenue to justify their international dealings around the country. Other testimony also brought up that if you look at it under the terms of this bill, basically Colorado is a tax haven from California. There are companies that relocate to Colorado because we have better tax treatment than the state of Colorado. Other countries that have been called tax havens are countries like Belgium and Switzerland. And we're entering in a time where it's going to be increasingly country after country is going to start pointing a finger and calling other countries tax havens. And we're going to get into a trade war, as if you remember our history from the late 1920s caused very bad things. I ask for a no vote on this bill.
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Priola brought up a couple points that I wanted to address. One, sorry, I'm not that tall. One point that Representative Priola brought up was this report that was made from the Council on State Taxation. And what I think is really interesting about this report, it's a group that has an interest in the status quo, so you have to take a look at that. But what's most interesting is the analysis they did in this report, even though they are against this kind of bill, is that they still couldn't produce any data or any evidence whatsoever that this kind of policy has produced economic harm in other states. And it's not just 2 states that have implemented this bill, by the way, members. There are other states as well. Alaska, for example, has had this on their books since 1998. There is data that's out there, but there's nothing that's been brought to any of our attention. Any of the fact sheets that are opposing this bill is brought to our attention. Any of the committee hearings that would show any kind of economic damage. And a couple of the companies that Representative Priola alluded to that the governor brought in, they were actually asked about whether or not they used these tax havens, and they said no. So members, this is an important point. If you don't use tax havens, this bill doesn't apply to you. It does not, if you don't use tax havens. Now, I want to address the stakeholder process because, in fact, we did go through a stakeholder process. In fact, we sent out a copy of the draft of the bill well before the session even started to groups like Casey, to groups like C3, to groups like the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce and others that opposed the bill last year and asked for feedback. We have actually implemented amendments in the bill over the last couple of years that has taken into account the opponent's feedback on the technical nature of the bill. And you know how many times they got back to us and said, hey, you may want to take a look at something. You may want to make this technical change. How many times? 0. None. They didn't get back to us. Members, they're going to oppose the bill regardless. And that's too bad because this really isn't a bill that should be opposed by a group that's representing so many businesses, including small businesses that are at a competitive disadvantage. Thank you.
And members, can we please take our side conversations to the back and please keep it down? Representative Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With all due respect, after talking with some of the stakeholders, that's because they knew from the get-go that there was no technical changes that could make this bill better. They knew that in its root, it was going to cause grave harm. When a company has anything overseas and it's going to cause them to be subject to, according to the testimony we heard, not only the 4.63 tax that Colorado would impose, but another 35% on top of that the federal government would impose. Now all of a sudden we're risking up to 40% of the money that they have. This will hurt Colorado's reputation. This will hurt Colorado businesses and our reputation to draw other businesses into this state. And not only that, but it creates a patchwork of policies, and we are a black hole amongst the patchwork for places that are unfriendly to business. I ask for a no vote.
Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Conti, for, I think, bringing up one of the most important points about this debate, is that we have one of the lowest income tax rates in the nation. Ours is 4.63%. We heard often about what lengths companies go through to get a tax haven to avoid the 35% for the federal taxes. This has nothing to do with the federal taxes. This is just ensuring that what business you do in Colorado, you're paying that very small percentage that's going to go back to making sure that we have a sustainable economy. So I also wanted to talk about, I just think that it's important. We heard from a lot of people that went to oppose this bill. And I understand they're representing members who could potentially be affected by this. It is a small percentage, but it is money. But I just want to say we're here to represent our constituents. This is a significant amount relative to our current situation in Colorado's budget. And so I hope that you support this bill.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we are here to represent our citizens. That's who I'm going to be voting no for, because it's not the big multinational corporations who will be dramatically hurt by this, because those costs are going to get passed on. The people who will be hurt by this are the citizens in my district, like the citizens that just moved here from California to work for Charles Schwab, or Lockheed Martin, or Arrow Electronics, the new graduate who just graduated from Metro State who's looking for their first job. That's who will be hurt by this bill. This is a dangerous bill. It's too extreme for California, and it's too extreme for Colorado. Thank you.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is about one thing: fairness. The small businesses in Colorado pay their fair share of their taxes. Corporations should too. That's all this is about. Fairness, making certain that anybody who makes money in Colorado pays their fair share of taxes. Thank you.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of you didn't hear part of the drama that went on in finance on this, because I asked a question, Rep. Pedersen was talking about it, if the bill writer, Ms. Pellegrin, had made a mistake. She didn't. And she clarified that with me. So the issue was, if the dollars that this would generate, if it would go through, would be totally earmarked to expand educational funding, not just go to educational funding. So that being clarified, and Ms. Pellegrin's record is still intact, I've got 3 questions on this bill, on House Bill 16-1275. If it's so good and, as Representative Court said, fair for business, why are so many chambers opposed? I understand it's one thing for organizations, for the lobbyist group and so forth. I understand that. I understand their opposition to it. But as I looked at the testimony and looked at the people who were opposed, I said, why would local chambers be opposed? Second question, if you look at the bill, it expands the Department of Revenue's powers far beyond what I think they should be able to do. Set aside the fact I think they have way too much power already, but that's irrelevant for this bill. But the expansion of those powers, number one, is that they can actually blacklist countries. The Colorado Department of Revenue can actually blacklist a country. I question if that's something we really want to give them the power to do. The second piece that they can do in this bill is to define legitimate business. So if I decide to start a business in Colorado, the Department of Revenue would now be able to define whether that's a legitimate business. I don't think that's right. And the third thing, and maybe that's the most important piece of this whole thing, as we listen to testimony, the state of Montana was listed as the flagship for this bill as an example of what a state can do and how it can benefit the state. And bless their hearts, I love Montana folks, but they've only got one city with a population of over 100,000. That's Billings with 109,000. I question if that's really a good business model to use as our flagship in the state of Colorado. So for those 3 reasons, I oppose 1275 and ask for a no vote.
Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, I did not hear this in committee, but just reviewing the bill, I just have a couple of questions about the impact that it's going to have on businesses that are being recruited to Colorado to try to continue boosting our economy. And I have a question about, does OEDIT support this bill? They've been working pretty hard on this, and I'm curious what their position is.
Representative Corum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You look very handsome standing up there.
You too, down there.
Very good. I have a question for the sponsors. I had legislation last year that brought in revenue, and it died because it would be a hit on the Tabor. Will revenue from this have any effect on Tabor refunds?
Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will not have an impact. It would be exempt, but have to go to the voters for approval.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, again, this bill will, in my opinion, chip away at what previous policymakers in this state, going back to when I was a kid in the 80s, folks realized that we had to have a diverse economy with not just businesses in the extraction industry or ag. We needed to have international companies in this state to provide a diverse employment base for when we did have downturns in ag or extraction or so on and so forth. Colorado there was a rating out just last week. Denver is considered one of the best places to live in the country. And I submit part of it is the reason is we have a climate that is conducive to job creation. So earlier they brought up the fact of fairness in taxing, but what wasn't brought up is that in the state of Colorado, businesses pay the highest business personal property tax and the highest property tax in the nation because of Gallagher. So it's not just one tax, it's a mix of items that create a general business climate. I submit that House Bill 1275 will start to chip away at that climate, and Colorado will no longer be considered the tax haven vis-a-vis California that it is. I ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Foote. Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I still would like an answer to my question about whether OEDIT supports this. We have done a lot of work recruiting businesses to the state, and so far on this bill, I haven't heard of one economic development team or one business group that supports this bill. So to me, that seems a little counterintuitive to the work that's being done across the state to make sure that we have a growing economy. I would still like an answer to my question about whether OEDIT supports this.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess I have the same question. You know, I mean, is the governor's office in favor of this bill or is it against this bill? Did the governor's office testify in favor of the bill, or did they testify against the bill, or if they didn't testify, why did they not testify?
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just get this one question out of the way, and then I'd like to address a couple other questions. First of all, OEDIT has not taken a position on the bill, so there was no testimony one way or the other. Secondly, I guess I have this question, and I would love to talk to the opponents of this bill and see if we can have some evidence or data actually supporting this contention. But how is it that businesses that would be doing business in Colorado anyway, because there's a market for their good and service, be hurt by being required to pay Colorado income taxes that they already owe? We're not talking about them paying more taxes. They already owe a 4.63% income tax on profits made in the state of Colorado. There's nothing in this bill that deals with the geography of companies one way or the other. You could have a company that's based in Florida doing business in Colorado, and under our current tax rules, they're required to pay income taxes on the profits they make in Colorado. It's that simple. If you have a business in Colorado that doesn't do business with Coloradans, say they export over to another state, they don't have to pay income taxes now, and they won't under this bill. It's only those that are making profits off of Coloradans. Taxes are paid where profits are made. So I'm still awaiting in the debate, and I have been for a year, any kind of evidence from any other state that would indicate that this would hurt business. There is none. There is none, but of course I'm happy to hear any kind of study or any kind of data, and I'm happy to take a look at that. I've been asking for that for a year, have received nothing. I want to address a little bit about the listing of countries, and Representative Wilson brought up I think a good point, because there's questions here about how do we go about doing this. Last year, you may remember in the bill, we put in a list of countries that are presumed to be tax havens in the legislation. And we heard a lot of feedback about that, about how we don't want to put that in legislation. That's a bad idea. So we look towards other states that do this, not Montana only, but there's other states that do this, and we look at what they do. Some states put in just the factor test of how a taxpayer is supposed to determine whether or not they're doing business in a tax haven country. Well, you may be able to predict the criticism of that is, how are you giving the taxpayer adequate notice of whether or not they're doing business in a tax haven country and whether or not they're going to owe taxes that they actually already owe? So, and that's a valid criticism. So we decided to come up with something in the middle, which allows affected countries, it allows affected businesses, it allows affected taxpayers, it allows legislators, it allows the general public to come in and testify during a rulemaking process so that the Department of Revenue can make a rule just like they do any other rule. And members, finally, I want to talk again about the stakeholder process, because we are always looking for ways to make this bill better. And we're always looking for different approaches. And we listen to testimony, just like all the members do. And we listen to criticisms that come forth before the bill or about the bill. We maintain that many of those are not valid. But there is one that I want to address in a second reading amendment. And I think it will eliminate a potential criticism of this bill. So, Mr. Chair, I move L004 to House Bill 1275. Amendment 4.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed, Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Amendment L004 addresses the criticism that came up during the hearing about the potential for double taxation if a country or if a company is doing business in, say, Bermuda or another tax haven type of country. And first of all, I really am not so sure that this would happen, because one of the hallmarks of a tax haven country is that they charge no or very little income tax to begin with, which is why companies want to incorporate a shell corporation in those tax haven countries. And then secondly, because businesses should know, and lawyers and accountants should know where the money is going and what the sales are for. That's what they're paid the big bucks to do. And they're also paid the big bucks to take the applicable deductions like the foreign income tax deduction off of their taxes. So they shouldn't mess this up. But even if there is a slight chance of double taxation, this is not our intent. So Amendment L004 is designed to make sure that it's clear in the bill that double taxation will not occur, and we ask for an aye vote.
Representative Priola.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And members, this amendment speaks to my earlier point about the complexity of the accounting that's involved here vis-a-vis international trade negotiations, so on and so forth. And I think it's very informative that the Office of Economic Development did not show up and even say that they were neutral on this bill.
To the amendment, please.
Testimony was such that Representative Foote had reached out to them earlier in the process, but they were silent on it. The companies such as Arrow Electronic, Western Union, Newmont Mining, so on and so forth, would be targeted by this bill, 1275.
Representative Priola, please,
economic
to the amendment.
development, EO has been working for years to try to attract those employers to the state. So what does that mean? It means if you or someone you know works for one of those companies, you might be concerned that this kind of legislation would give them pause to maybe relocate to another part of the country that isn't as hostile towards job creation. I ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L004. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. L004 passes. To the bill, Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, members, if we needed any further clarification, I'd love to offer it here, that there is no double taxation that will occur here. So again, Mr. Chair, I move L005.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed, Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L005 is the same thing, but it's in the legislative declaration. So not only should it be clear, but even beyond clear, that this is not going to be an issue with this bill. So I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on L005? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L005. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Is there any further discussion on the bill? Seeing Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just a little concerned that the governor's office seems to not be supporting this bill. Now, I'm going to make a few assumptions here. I'm assuming that if the governor was in favor of the bill, that they would have been there to testify in favor of it. And I'm assuming that if they might be opposed to the bill, that they wouldn't, because they wouldn't want anybody to be offended. So I'm assuming that they do oppose the bill and are just depending on the Senate for taking care of this bill. I think we ought to take care of it right now and just vote no.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Ruppe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want you to know I'm not that tall either.
That's okay.
You know, NFIB opposes this bill. I just want you to know, if we were having so much success with the stakeholder process, why are we doing these kinds of amendments after committee? It's because the stakeholder process was not as complete and thorough as some would intend it to be. You know, and companies are doing business in other countries because they manufacture products, conduct research and development, streamline supply chains, or seek new customers. And companies make legitimate overseas sales and capital investments are not holding millions of dollars in tax revenue in tax havens. We are assuming that these folks are illegitimate that they're intentionally withholding money. And I would further proclaim that this money is just not the silver bullet that it's intended to be. We don't know for a fact that there's $20 million out there hanging, waiting for somebody to just pluck it out because we have now instituted this law. That's just a false promise. So, members, I encourage you to vote against this bill.
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, again, I want to just set the record straight about the stakeholder process here, members. Before the session even started, I communicated with NFIB and asked them about this bill. You know, as you know, we introduced the bill last year, and I communicated with them saying, look, we're going to bring this bill again this year. Here's the draft of the bill. What comments do you have? What questions do you have? You know how many responses I received from NFIB about that? Guess. 0. Before we introduced the bill a few weeks ago, I went over to Casey with their tax council. They have about 50 lawyers and accountants specializing in tax law sitting around their big table they have there, and gave a brief presentation about the bill, asked for their feedback, and took questions for about 45 minutes. All of this happened before the bill got introduced, members. And again, we're always looking for ways to make the bill better, regardless of when the time comes that that idea shows up. If you all have ideas how to make the bill better, we're happy to listen. We're always happy to listen, because your constituents, those 500,000 businesses that don't use these tax havens, would thank you for that.
Representative Lawrence. Is there any further discussion? Representative Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to speak resoundingly against this bill. Northern Colorado Legislative Alliance, which includes the Greeley Chamber of Commerce, Northern Colorado Economic Development, Upstate Colorado, the Loveland Chamber of Commerce, and also the Fort Collins Chamber of Commerce, absolutely opposes this bill. And I do think it's a little disingenuous to start after you've heard committee testimony and after you had stakeholder meetings. And yeah, you may not have heard anything from NFIB, but why are you forcing the issue then if all the stakeholders did not come to the table and think that you want to try to get this because you may have the majority on the House floor? I just don't think it's right. So I ask no on this bill. Thank you.
Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, again, I'm going to go back to the questions that I've had before for Representatives Pedersen and Foote. Do you think this is going to make Colorado a more business-friendly climate? Do you think this is going to help attract businesses to this state? Does OEDIT support this? There has been a lot of work done by economic development, chambers, OEDIT, recruiting businesses to Colorado, and that's the basic question. What favorable image is this going to project for Colorado? And I don't think it does. So I would love to have an answer to those questions.
Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Lawrence, thank you for your comments and questions. I do believe this will make Colorado a more business-friendly state. This is going to level the playing fields for our small businesses that are paying this percentage on top of the federal percentage. It's going to also bring money back to our schools. We are rated almost #1 in the nation in places to do business. But the biggest barrier that we have for that rating and for being one of the best places to start a business in Colorado is our school system. Our companies want to know that they have workers, an educated workforce to hire. It's the Colorado paradox that we have one of the most educated workforces in the nation, but it's people that we have to bring here. What if we actually put our tax dollars in investing in our kids and ensured that our Colorado kids were the ones that were getting these great jobs, that we weren't having to bring people from other states to fill these positions? So I think this absolutely does a piece of this. It doesn't completely solve the problem. We have a D+ rating in our school finance and our funding for our kids. So this is a step towards the right direction.
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This actually is a good bill for business members, and let me tell you why. Because what this bill says is, you as a business, particularly those 500,000 businesses that don't use these tax havens, can compete. You have a level playing field with the businesses that happen to have the resources and the lawyers and the accountants and the lobbyists to try to keep this loophole open. You, the small businesses that make up the backbone of our state and the business community here, can play on a level playing field and are not at a competitive disadvantage to these few hundred big businesses that use this loophole. These are the types of messages that we want to make sure that we send to Coloradans. That it doesn't matter if you can afford to have all of the fancy and expensive lawyers and the accountants and the lobbyists pushing down here at the Capitol every day. Your voice is also heard, and that's what this legislation represents.
Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, again, I still have not really heard an answer to my question. Colorado currently has one of the best business environments in the country, but what will this do? How many businesses, how many economic development teams, how many chambers of commerce came and testified in favor of this? How many of them worked to craft this legislation? I did not hear that there were any. So again, I have significant questions about how this is going to be helpful to the businesses around this state. Most people know when they start their business what the tax atmosphere is, and they understand that as they're building their business, and they know how to calculate that into their overhead. This is not a surprising event that happens in a business atmosphere. So again, I don't see how this is going to make Colorado more business friendly. I think currently we have one of the best environments for growing businesses in the country. This moves us in the wrong direction. And again, we didn't hear from businesses who supported this. So I would ask for a no vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Thurlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members. And I would like to just briefly, the issue of small businesses has been raised several times. I'd like to speak to you as a former small businessman. I was lucky enough to sell my business at the first of this year and become a full-time legislator. But when I was in a small business, some of our best customers were international companies that came here because they wanted to do business in Colorado. And yes, maybe they are incentivized by not paying their income taxes. I don't think this bill will make any difference in that. And I think if you look through that accounting equation that was put on the board, I don't think we have any way of controlling the nexus of an international company. And if they choose to not pay our income taxes, they're probably not going to. But as a small businessman, what they do is they come here and they buy products from local small businesses. They employ other people in our communities. Those people buy houses. They create economic activity in our communities. That's what we should be encouraging more of, not less of. And this bill will discourage that activity rather than help it. So I would urge a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Thurlow, I appreciate your perspective. I think it's a very good perspective. And this is the kind of thing that we have taken a look at when we've been looking at this bill, whether or not, in fact, it would affect any kind of business environment, business climate, or businesses doing business here in the state of Colorado. And I'll just go back to what I've said several times before. Out of all the states that do this, and all the people that have studied it, and all the groups that have studied it, there's no evidence that it has a negative impact. None. I mean, you can make the assertion, but I would hope that we here at the legislature can deliberate in a way that would take into account evidence one way or the other. And there is just nothing. I've heard the assertion many times, and I've asked many times if there's evidence to support it, and it just isn't there. So it's not really an argument, in our opinion, that holds a lot of merit until someone can show us information otherwise.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1275. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. House Bill 1275 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1183. Oh, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1183 by one bill.
Oh, sorry. Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1183 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1100 until Wednesday, March 9th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1100 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1272.
House Bill 1272, by Representative Kraft Tharp, also Senator Tate, concerning procedures to be followed in connection with disconnection by ordinance of land for municipality.
Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee report.
To the committee report.
And I would like to, I have an amendment on the committee report, and if we could show it up on the screen. I move the amendment L003 on the screen. Displayed on the screen.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed, Representative Kraft Tharp.
Please to display on the screen. Can we start all over, because I might want to use this tape for something.
Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move L003 and ask that it be displayed on the screen.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed, Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you. So in committee, we passed an amendment that special districts as well as the counties would be notified of any disconnect with a municipality. When we passed that amendment in committee, we didn't add special districts in one place. The drafter brought it to my attention this morning. So right here where it says failure by either the Board of County Commissioners or the board, the affected special district is what this amendment is. So it's making sure that special districts request a meeting constitutes an acknowledgement of the particular board that the disconnection will not adversely affect that special district. So I ask for an aye vote on this amendment to the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment to the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L003 to the local government committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment passes. To the committee report.
Thank you. So as I just stated, the committee passed an amendment that special districts as well as the counties would be notified of any disconnection. I ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion on the local government committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the local government committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The local government committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you. I move House Bill 1272.
To the bill.
Thank you. So, members, Colorado state statutes provides two methods by which a property owner can disconnect or de-annex from a municipality. One is by application to that municipality. The other is by petition to a district court. Under the current law, when a property owner applies to a municipality for an ordinance disconnecting that tract of land from the municipality, there is no requirement that the county in which the tract of land is located be included in the disconnection process. This bill simply clarifies that both counties and special districts would be notified of any application for disconnection. I ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Quorum.
Oh, Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Representative Tharp, I thought you liked your amendment. If you liked your amendment, you should have moved it as amended.
He would be correct.
Thank you, Representative Kraft. Maryland has informed the chair that everything's okay. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1272? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1272 as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. House Bill 1272 passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1183.
House Bill 1183 by Representative Buckner concerning aligning changes made to the Federal Child Care and Development Block Grant Reauthorization of 2014 of the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program.
Representative Buckner.
Mr. Chair, I move House Bill 1183, no committee report.
To the bill.
This bill is a technical cleanup to make sure that our state statute aligns with federal requirements with regard to CCAP, which is Colorado Child Care Assistance Program. If the state does not comply with these federal regulations, unfortunately, we would lose $70 million a year. This bill will increase access to quality of early child care for parents so they can increase their education and have greater access to job training. I ask for your support with this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1183. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1183 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 63.
Senate Bill 63 by Senator Roberts, also representative Vigil, concerning the authority of a local government to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with an out-of-state local government to provide critical public services.
Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 63, and there is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill authorizes Colorado local governments to enter into an agreement with local governments in bordering states to provide emergency services, and such agreements must comply with the statutory requirements for intergovernmental agreements. And the bill grants immunity for persons performing emergency services under such agreement. Any liability that accrues under the Colorado Government Immunity Act for persons of other states performing duties in Colorado are imposed on Colorado local governments that may. Anyway, what this bill does, it allows bordering counties with states like New Mexico, in my case, to be able to go back and forth, have agreements, and help each other out, because sometimes the closest place to emergency services is the next state. In my case, it would be like Garcia, Colorado, and to Costilla, New Mexico, which is half a mile from border to border. They've got fire emergency, and they got EMTs, and so that's probably closer for them to get to them than anybody else from the Cuesta area, so in Towson and Costilla County. So there are other counties like like Conejos County and other counties in New Mexico. So with that, I ask for your support on this and ask for a favorable for a yes vote.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in strong support of Senate Bill 63. We're in kind of the same position that Representative Vigil is down there, where we neighbor with New Mexico and Utah, and this bill will help us to be able to get the best services that we possibly can and go across state lines. And I would certainly encourage a yes vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 63. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 63 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 55.
Senate Bill 55 by Senator Grantham, also representative Moreno, concerning the conduct of elections to choose the board of directors of the Cooperative Electric Association.
Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 55. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a really simple bill. All it says is that with the rural electric associations, there was some ambiguity in the law that indicated that if a ballot for that election for the board of directors was not returned in a secrecy sleeve, that it could not be counted. And so this is providing clarity to make sure that even if someone did not turn their ballot in with a secrecy sleeve, that vote would still be counted. And these are important elections. They're usually decided by a few votes. And so this is just a clarity in the law that is needed, and I ask for your support.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 55. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 55 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1060.
House Bill 1060 by Representative Tyler, also Senator Baumgartner, concerning roadside memorials for fallen state patrol officers.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, over the last years in Colorado, 26 state patrol officers have died in the line of duty while protecting us on our highways. This is a bill that simply makes it possible for CDOT to put signage up on the roads and honoring those state patrol officers. I move House Bill 1060.
Thank you. It's been moved. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1060. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. House Bill 1060 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1070.
House Bill 1070, Representative Neville, also Senator Neville, concerning a signature verification requirement for municipal mail ballot elections. Representative Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1070 and the State Affairs Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
This, in the Appropriations Committee, we simply added a staff amendment allowing the authorization of spending these cash funds. I urge a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The Appropriations Committee report passes. To the State Affairs Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The State Affairs Committee report, we realized in State Affairs and Committee that the municipal elections are not overseen by the Secretary of State. So what we did is we used Secretary of State rules that look over Title I elections, and those same exact rules we adopted in statute so that they can be applied to municipal signature verification as well. I urge a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on the State Affairs Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the State Affairs Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The State Affairs Committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a great bill. We had a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people in support of this bill. This basically simply allows municipalities to do signature verification in the exact same manner that we all got elected by with the Title I elections. I urge a yes vote.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it gives me great joy to support Representative Neville bill, and I hope that doesn't get him in trouble. Vote yes.
Representative Arndt.
I'm also here to give Representative Neville in trouble, and our city loves this bill, and it's a great bill, and I'm always pro for good election bills. Thanks for bringing it.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1070. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1070 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1103.
House Bill 1103, Representatives Kraft, Tharp, and Landgraf, also Senators Martinez, Humanic, and Todd, concerning clarifying license pathways for the mental health professional workforce.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this bill does, it allows but does not require students who are, what are they? Master's students in social work as well as other fields, that they register in the database that they belong in. So it really is a job bill.
Please move the committee report and the bill. Representative Kraft.
Sorry, I learned from her.
Representative Kraft.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you. So we passed an amendment that does three things. One is it takes out the information about that the hours that you accumulate in one database do not apply to your database of profession because there's a national lawsuit that demonstrates that this is anti-competitive. It takes out the required rulemaking, which then eliminates the fiscal note, and then it also changes the word candidate to applicant because some states don't have candidates, so that would affect out-of-state folks. So ask support for the committee report.
Any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Public Health Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The Health Committee report passes. Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1103 and ask for a yes vote.
To the bill. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1103. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1103 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1141.
House Bill 1141 by Representatives Becker, Kay, and Coram, also Senators John and Roberts, concerning the protection of Colorado residents from the hazards associated with naturally occurring radioactive materials in buildings.
Representative Kay Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Appropriations Committee report on House Bill 1141.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Appropriations Committee, we passed J002, which clarified that the money comes from the Hazardous Material Waste Management Fund. We also passed an amendment that clarifies that the fees collected under this can be used for this purpose, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The Appropriations Committee report passes. Representative Coram.
Thank you. I move 1141.
No.
Or I'm sorry, we have one more.
Health insurance.
You do that one.
Okay. I move the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report.
To the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report. Representative Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Health Insurance and Environment Committee, we passed an amendment to clarify that the funding was coming from the I want to get the name right, Hazardous Substance Response Fund. And I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The Public Health or the Health Insurance and Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Corum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move 1141 as amended.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1141 uses existing fees in the Hazardous Response Fund to finance radon mitigation and radon testing kits for low-income folks. We are doing this because Colorado is one of the state's highest. I'm going to try that over. Colorado ranks 7th in the nation for the highest potential radon risk. A lot of people don't know about the radon risk in their homes, and we believe that this will make people safer in their own homes, and I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Corum.
This was a bad bill. I would have told you so.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1141. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1141 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1184.
House Bill 1184, Representative Rankin, also Senator Grantham, concerning the administration of money that was required under an existing law to be transferred from the high-cost support mechanism to the broadband fund.
Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move House Bill 161184, JBC bill.
To the bill, Representative Rankin.
Okay, what this bill does is set the date for the transfer of money from the high-cost support mechanism to the broadband board, which we passed, I believe, a couple of years ago, but we're just setting a date for that to occur.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1184? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1184. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1184 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1229.
House Bill 1229 by Representative Rankin, also Senator Stebbins, concerning modification of the means of repayment for certain ongoing financial obligations incurred by the state in order to fund capital construction projects or state-supported institutions of higher education.
Nice job, Mr. Kohler. Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move House Bill 1229 and the Finance Committee report.
To the Finance Committee report.
The Finance Committee report was a strike below. We essentially had to restructure what we were doing with these two cash funds.
Is there any further discussion on the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Finance Committee report passes. Representative Rankin.
What this amounts to is in 2009, the legislature set up a incredibly complicated mix of cash funds, and the money from federal mineral lease bonus payments would flow into those cash funds, and a portion of that would be used to pay the certificate of participation payments for higher education buildings. It turns out that there was not enough money in the fund that pays those, so what we're doing with this bill is consolidating two funds. I won't read those long names to you, but we're consolidating two funds to ensure that we have adequate money to make those COP payments without digging into general fund this year.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1229. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1229 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 89.
Senate Bill 89 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Hamner, concerning the establishment of an alternative maximum reserve for the Department of State Cash Fund.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 89.
To the bill.
Thank you. Colleagues, this bill allows some flexibilities without having to issue fee holidays. So I ask for your support of Senate Bill 89.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 89. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 89 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 90.
Senate Bill 90 by Senator Stebbins, also Representative Young, concerning the ability of the Department of Public Health and Environment to collect data on marijuana health effects at a regional level.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 90.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill allows us to collect data in a different way. Back in 2013, we passed as a legislature Senate Bill 283, which required the Department of Public Health and Environment to monitor the health effects of marijuana and collect data on a county level. And they actually inserted questions in 3 different surveys to accomplish this, but have discovered that in certain small counties that confidentiality may become a problem when collecting this data. So they're asking for a change in the law that allows us to collect this data on a regional level when prescribed, and they already have the region set up. So I ask for your aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 90. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 90 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 91.
Senate Bill 91 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Hamner, concerning timing of the statewide discovery sharing system.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 91.
To the bill.
Thank you. Members, Senate Bill 91 delays the start of the statewide discovery sharing system called the e-discovery system. It moves the deadline by which the system must be operational from November 1st to July 1st, 2017, and I ask for your support of this change.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 91. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes
bills. We've been depositing that money with the Department of Interior, which case we do not collect any interest and we have some loss of control over that money. We're simply allowing that money to be deposited to the Natural Resource Damage Recovery Fund, in which we will recover interest. That's part of the bill. The other part of the bill, it allows CDPHE and the Department of Law to borrow money from the Hazardous Substance Recovery Fund to pursue these claims, and then they pay that back later. So that's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 92. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 92 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 93.
Senate Bill 93 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Young, concerning transfer of the oversight of independent living services from the Department of Human Services to the Department of Labor and Employment.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 93.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill, JBC bill, moves the oversight of the independent living centers from Department of Human Services to the Department of Labor and Employment. I ask for your aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe just a short question. As I was going over this bill, it seems that maybe the Department of Human Services may be better qualified to do this than the Department of Labor, or vice versa. I'm not sure which way it was. Could you explain that to me for?
Representative Young.
Thank you for Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question, Representative Brown. Actually, you'll recall last year we moved the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, or the division, from CDHS to CDLE. The independent living centers asked for an office within the Department of Human Services and they said no, we really don't want to do that. But the Department of Labor and Employment said that they would provide that office within the existing funding that the independent living centers have. And so I think there's a lot of alignment between what the Division of DVR and what the independent living centers are doing. So putting them all together under CDLE and CDLE saying they're willing to do that makes a lot of sense to us.
Representative Brown.
Thank you for that explanation, and that answers my question. And I put a lot of. I just appreciate you guys' thought on that.
Very good. Thank you.
Is there Representative Primavera?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I am one of the people in this body that has worked in this field. I worked at the Department of Human Services in Voc Rehab for 12 years. And we worked very closely with the independent living centers. It's sort of like the RICO concept. People can get a job, but they may not be able to keep a job unless they have the necessary supports around them to learn to ride the bus, to learn to do their finances, to be able to eat correctly and those kinds of things. So it's really critical, I think, that both these programs be together in the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment so that it's not a split system again. So I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 93. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 93 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 95.
Senate Bill 95 by Senator Sedman, also Representative Young, concerning the 5-year appropriations requirement for bills to change the periods of incarceration in state correctional facilities.
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 95.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 95 is a joint budget committee bill. You may have run in at one point or another in your legislative career to a Department of Corrections bill or some kind of criminal bill that we pass changing the kind of sentencing that we're doing. Whenever you look at the fiscal note on that, it's a 5-year estimate going out into the future of what that cost will be. Our staff came to us on the JBC and said, we don't think we're really getting a complete look at the full costs of what that kind of a bill might entail. And so this bill is designed to give us a more complete look at the full cost going forward on any kind of DOC or sentencing bill that may come across our desks. I ask for your aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 95. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 95 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1270.
House Bill 1270 by Representative Lee, concerning the limitation of laws governing security interest to an owner's interest in a business entity.
Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1270 and the Business Committee report.
To the Business Committee report.
The Business and Labor Committee made a minor amendment to the bill to incorporate the rule that was being changed into the statute. I ask for an aye vote on the Business Committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Business Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Business Committee report. Those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Business Committee report passes. Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill, ladies and gentlemen, makes no changes in the substantive law of Colorado. It makes a change in the Uniform Commercial Code to harmonize it with what exists in the business code for corporations. So this is a simple fix to make our statutes more clear. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1270. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1270 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1279.
House Bill 1279 by Representative Rosenthal, concerning the creation of an international sister-state relationship program by the Colorado Office of Economic Development.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1279 and the committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this basically deletes a part of the bill relating to creating a report.
Is there any further discussion on the Business Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Business Committee report. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Business Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this bill relates to creating a sister state program so that Colorado, this will be housed in OEDIT. And what it'll do is to help create sister state relationships between Colorado and other provinces around the world. There are already some that have been declared to be sister states. However, we have not really worked on those relationships to build those relationships. And of course, as you know, Mr. Chair, those are very important in order to create business, tourism, and person-to-person exchanges between Colorado and various places around the world that will help Colorado grow as a state. So I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1279. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1279 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1269.
House Bill 1269 by Representative Melton, concerning the ability of the Department of Revenue to allow additional application methods for identification cards.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1269. There are no committee reports.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, under current law, if you were to want to take your driver's license and transfer it into an ID card, you actually have to travel down to one of the DMV offices. What House Bill 1269 does is it allows Department of Revenue to set this up online, so that way people who are having difficulty driving or traveling don't have to make that trip and can actually just make this transfer online, which is really great for our seniors and improving the efficiency of government. And with that, I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1269. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1269 passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1285 until March 9th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1285 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1101 until Monday, March 14th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1101 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Kohler, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1027 by one bill.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1027 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1215.
House Bill 1215 by Representatives McCann and Kagan, also Senator Guzman, concerning changing the statutory purposes of parole to successfully reintegrate parolees into society by providing enhanced supportive services.
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues. This bill is a CCJJ bill that will change the purposes of parole to reflect more rehabilitation efforts than punishment efforts. Passed out of judiciary unanimously, so would ask for an aye vote.
Representative Kagan.
I would also ask for an aye vote and just support and thank Representative McCann and the CCJJ for recommending this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Representative McCain, please move the bill.
Oh my gosh, I've only been down here 8 years. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1215 I move House Bill 1215.
Wonderful. Is there any further discussion? The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1215. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1215 passes.
Oh, there you are.
Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1027.
House Bill 1027 by Representative Danielson, concerning depositions in criminal cases in which an at-risk person may not be available for trial.
Representative Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1027 and the Judiciary Hearing Committee report.
The Judiciary Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief explanation. The Judiciary Committee heard the bill, and I offered a couple of amendments that brought the criminal defense attorneys and the criminal defense bar into an agreement on the bill, the content, the integrity of the thing, and the district attorneys as well. So everybody was pretty comfortable with the bill following those amendments.
Is there any further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Judiciary Committee report passes. To the bill, Representative Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, House Bill 1027 is a real step forward to protecting senior citizens, enabling them to live safely at home and independently by helping folks prosecute these cases. Elder abuse is a real problem. It's a growing problem. It's one that just personally really gets under my skin. But as our population continues to age rapidly across Colorado, we're going to need to prepare for this. And one step is just making it harder for people to prey on the greatest generation and older Coloradans across the state. So for those reasons, I urge an aye vote on House Bill 1027.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Kleinschmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Danielson. I was not in committee, and I just have a question. It's a friendly question. I'm sure it was addressed. But our Constitution, I think, requires that if someone's going to be prosecuted or accused, they have the right to cross-examine witnesses. And this bill, if I understand it properly, would only require that at-risk population, you know, seniors who deserve maybe not to be put under very much stress, but they're going to submit a deposition or instead of being allowed to be cross-examined. Can you explain that, please?
Representative Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, thank you, Representative Klingenschmidt. It's a good question. No, you have the right to have both attorneys present and to have questions, and there's a stenographer, and it's the same rules that apply to any other deposition when this would be submitted as evidence. That there is ahead of it, there's the chance for discovery so they can understand what's happening with the case prior to the deposition being taken, and then during the deposition they can be cross-examined. And basically, this brings it in line with the rules that already apply to other depositions. And it's not that we want to put these folks under less stress. It's that currently you can ask for this to happen. It's just that there's a barrier to granting the deposition, and that's you have to kind of prove. Currently, you have to prove a lot of things and jump through a number of hoops and get all kinds of paperwork that takes months. And so sometimes these at-risk elder victims are either their health is declining too rapidly for them to even get approval for the deposition, or they pass away before they get approval for the deposition, or they pass away before the trial comes and they've never had that chance. So what we're saying is just for the case of at-risk elder victims, they're allowed to take the deposition, and then the judge decides whether or not it's admitted during the trial. So if the at-risk elder victim is still well and can appear in court, they have to.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Klingenschmidt, for that question. Yeah, so what I like about this bill and the amendments that were offered is that the discovery will be done before the deposition actually takes place. So that way both parties will have full discovery before they walk into that deposition. And then when that deposition occurs, the person who called for the deposition will have the first shot on doing an examination of the deponent. And then after that, then the other person has an opportunity to go ahead and cross-examine that deponent. So that meets with the requirements of the Constitution, and I felt comfortable with that.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1027. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1027 passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Kohler, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, Committee of the Whole begs to leave the report is under consideration following attached bills being second reading. The House makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1027 amended, 1060, 1070 amended, 1103 amended, 1141 amended, 1183, 1184, 1215, 1229 amended, 1269, 1270 amended, 1272 amended, 1275 amended, 1279 amended, passed on second reading in order and gross place on counter for third and final passage. Senate Bills 55, 63, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 95, passed on second reading in order and revised, placed on calendar for third and final passage. House Bills 1100 and 1285 laid over until March 9th, retaining their place on the calendar. House Bill 1101 laid over until March 14th, retaining its place on the calendar.
Representative Garnett.
Madam Speaker, I move the House adopt the report of the Committee of the Whole.
You heard the motion and there are no amendments. The question before the House is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine with 64 ayes, no noes, and 1 excuse. The report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. Announcements and introductions. The Speaker does have one announcement. On Friday, March 25, we will be out for spring break. That's also Good Friday and Easter, folks. So March 25, we have decided we can manage. That may mean a few late nights. I hope you realize that, but we're off on that Friday. And I have one more announcement. Also, sponsor change request. I will allow for Senator Heath to go on as a co-prime sponsor with Senator Crowder on House Bill 1129. Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Agriculture, Livestock, Natural Resource Committee members, heads up, there's change in rooms. We're going to be in LSBA this afternoon at 1:30. We're going to be hearing 3 bills. House Bill 1256 by Brown, 1109 by Becker and Becker, 1283 by Becker Kay, and we'll see you there at 1:30. Want to start on time because we might be a little while on those bills. So thank you and for your cooperation.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee, we've had a slight change in order on our bills this afternoon. We will be hearing House Bill 1204 with Representative Neville first, House Bill 1024 with Representative Sane and Humphrey second, House Bill 1179 with Representative Buck third, House Bill 1023 with Representative Everett fourth, and Senate Bill 17 with Representative Neville fifth. See you again. We're in room 271, 1:30. Thank you.
Are there further announcements and introductions? See none. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until later today at 1:30 p.m.
The motion is to stand in recess until later today at 1:30 p.m. Seeing no objections, we are in recess till 1:30.